Welcome, folks. My name is Alex Rodriguez, and this is the Bay Cities Construction Show. Today, we're going to teach you how to insulate your roof in the event you have a flat or vaulted roof and you don't want to tear up the inside of your house. We're also going to recap our last episode. My name is Alex, Bay Cities Construction. Stay tuned and wait for the show. Folks, welcome to the Bay Cities Construction Channel. This channel is dedicated to educate you on different aspects of home improvement. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about insulating roofs. There's a lot of roofs up in the Palos Verdes Peninsula, RPV estates, and even throughout the coastal cities here in the South Bay, where the roofs are either flat or they have a low pitch roof. And man, in the summertime it's really hot, and in the wintertime it's really cold. So we're going to be using these SIP panels, which are structural insulation panels, to insulate the roof and make sure that the house performs better in the cold and in the warm. So let's get into it. Let's kind of recap a little bit of the previous show. We got a really cool PowerPoint presentation here for you. And by all means, if you have any questions as we're in the middle of the show, Brian will read them to me. Brian's here behind the camera and operating the equipment. And let's get into it, guys. Let's get into the insulating ceilings with SIP panels. So one of the things you should know is that the previous episode is how to deal with the art jury. If you're in PV estates and you want to get new windows installed, you want to get the roof done, you want to change something about your stucco, or you want to get an addition, your project's got to go through the Palos Verdes Homeowners Association art jury. And this episode is dedicated to that process. So if you haven't done so and you're interested in doing a project that's affected by the art jury, or that has to be submitted to the art jury, you may want to get some information on that and watch that show. Cool. All right, tonight's episode, insulating vaulted ceilings. Now, this holds true for roofs that are flat and roofs that are vaulted. The idea is that if your house was built, or the site condition is if your house was built with no attic space, or a section of your house was built with no attic space, then you have to insulate it from the outside. And if you can't put in, your traditional fiberglass insulation, these SIP panels are a really good technique for getting you a significantly high performing R value, which is the rating for insulation. So let's talk about our little case study. We did a job this year in Palos Verdes Estates, and we installed this. We ended up having doing the roof for them, and we installed these SIP panels. So let's get to it. By the way, if you're wondering why my hair is a crazy color, my daughter dyed my hair, and she dyed her hair too. This is support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. As you know, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and my wife is a survivor. My mom has breast cancer, and she's battling that now. So get checked out, do it on a regular basis, get your mammogram, do your thing, and try and stay on top of that. But should be aware of that. It turned out purple. It's an amateur doing my dyeing. I don't know. I think in some cases I'd rather do it this color than try and paint my grays out. Looks kind of funny. It looked like Giuliani in that one time. Anyway, how to insulate your vaulted ceilings. So there's been many jobs where homeowners have a really nice interior, right? Or they don't want to mess with the interior because they like the exposed beams and rafters. In this case, you've got somewhat of an exposed low profile beam, and you've got kind of a tongue and groove wood setup. So if you don't want to lower the ceiling, right, you want to keep the vaulted ceiling look, you've got to do the insulation through the outside. And when you do it through the outside, then the question is, how are you going to do it? Are you going to build a void, or are you going to do some other type of paneling? There's some foam paneling that like they sell at Home Depot that oftentimes I've seen roofers put in, and they're about this thick, and we'll have some pictures of that. So but they don't really provide very good R value, right? So if you want something that's more high performing, we're going to show you how to do that. Again, some of these Spanish homes, you've got, like this one has drywall in between and then the exposed beams. If you were to infill that area with traditional insulation, you're going to lose that look, that vaulted ceiling look. And what we're talking about in this episode is preserving that look. So this is an outside shot of the house that we ended up retrofitting, or insulating through the outside. And you can see it's not a huge house. It's I think it's under 2,500 square feet. And this is an existing Spanish style tile roof. It's a Spanish house in PV Estates, and you can kind of see it's relatively simple roof setup. Now, the cool thing about this technique that we're going to show you is that it doesn't really raise the roof very much. In most cases, depending on the insulation factor that you're requiring. In our case, it only raised up the roof 4.5 inches, so it was about the thickness of a 2x4. In fact, we got one here. I'm going to show you in a minute. So let's look at the inside. Let's look at some of the inside work that we ended up doing. If you have exposed beams and if you have exposed rafters, which is what this is, you've got the beam here and kind of a cross beam, and then you've got the purlins, which are a type of roof rafter. The question is, are they correctly sized for the spans? And it turned out that this beam was undersized. It had a bow in it, so we ended up replacing all of the cross beams, and we ended up putting a new beam along the ridge. So you don't want to put more weight on the roof until you determine that the existing roof framing can withstand the weight. Okay, so that's something to consider. And mind you, these panels, they're not terribly heavy, but they definitely do add weight to the roof. And when you couple that with the roof tiles, it could be substantial. So you have to make sure that your engineer looks at it very closely and make sure that it's okay. So this is another section here. What we're looking at is in PV, if you live in Palos Verdes Estates or Rancho Palos Verdes, many times you'll see some type of a huge fireplace setup. This actually had an indoor, like a barbecue area indoors, and on the other side is the fireplace, and then this is the kitchen. So we ended up removing and replacing this beam, and we also ended up installing a new ridge beam. It didn't have one before, so we cut those purlins and slipped in the new ridge beam. So that was necessary in order to be able to carry the weight. In many ways, it was designed. It was a little bit under-designed. So there were dips, and the connections on the ridge were actually moving around, and the big beams had a bow in them. So it showed us that the gravity system was a little bit overloaded. We certainly didn't want to put any more weight on the roof without handling that. Then the other thing to consider is the lateral impact. A lot of these vaulted ceilings transfer most of the weight to the exterior walls, and your engineer has to take into account the lateral force of an earthquake, right? So that you don't have tremendous amount of damage after an earthquake. Because of the work that you did, you don't want to make it worse. You certainly don't want to make a site condition worse. This is another angle of the beam that we replaced, and then this is the ridge. You can see that there is no beam in the ridge. We ended up removing this entire fireplace, and the shelves kind of went out. This is a very popular look, the knotty pine type of look, and we ended up completely changing all that. That's a very common look here in PV. A lot of these houses are going back on the market after being in one owner for many years, and as a result of this turnover, we are experiencing a lot of demand for updating the houses. Brian, you want to say something? Oh, okay. All right, so let's move into the next phase here. So what can you do to insulate your roof? Now, look, ideally, you want to do this SIP panel installation when it's time to replace the roof. So let's get into it. Let me show you kind of what they look like. They come in 4x8 sheets. They also come a little bit bigger and larger sizes. They're kind of made to order, and they're made in, I think, in Utah. I want to say they're Utah, northern Utah, Salt Lake City, just out of Salt Lake City. We ordered them from Raycore. You basically ask them what the insulation value is that you're looking for, and they'll design them for you and bring them over, and you can determine how you want to actually install them, how they're going to be attached to the building, to the roof system. And I want to give you a little bit of a comparison. This is kind of the foam that you commonly find in Home Depot. Some of it is even purple. It's a polystyrene foam. This is a polyiso form. Polyiso insulation. So there's some distinct factors in the performance. You could see that this is a much thinner. You get way more R value. You get 6.5 per inch. So every inch it gives you a 6.5 rating. Just take into account that your average roof doesn't really require 30. I mean, if you're insulating the whole house, your engineer will do a Title 24 evaluation to see. But in this case, we ended up doing, I think, a 4-inch thick roof. You could do 6 inches if you wanted to. It's really up to you and up to the kind of like what kind of performance you're looking for. Now, for some of you that are up on the hill, in PV, you may even have a loft, like a little mezzanine. I've seen that often. If you have a little mezzanine and you're closer to the ceiling, you'll actually feel the roof, the heat radiating off the roof, and it's really uncomfortable. So this will definitely solve that problem. If you're in your living room and you can feel the heat radiating right now from the roof on a hot day, like in August, this will eliminate that. It's a really good solution. Now, the other difference is that the panels, the Raycore panels are structural, so they help make the roof system more rigid, and it really is important as part of the performance to be able to do that, particularly if you have a heavy roof like the Spanish tile or maybe even a concrete tile. Now, good to know, not that this really applies here, but this is a picture of a cold climate area, and you can see the walls are 6 inches thick, and they have the Raycore structural panels as the wall. So you could put these up on the walls vertically, and in fact, you could probably order them like that, and you could probably build the first floor of the house in an afternoon. Now, one of the really impressive things, because Palos Verdes Peninsula is in a high fire zone area, was the Class 1, Class A fire rating that this foam has. You can basically put a torch, like in this picture, to it, and it will not catch fire. You will toast it, you will make it kind of singe around it, but it will not catch fire. And that is a really impressive thing. When you combine that with a clay tile, the fire performance is amazing. This is the torture test, the flame test, done by Raycore.
Thanks for joining us today on Raycore.com. Is your product? Is it going to burn
I asked
sight,
that question.
match, and go up in flames? We're going to perform a burn test today and compare expanded polystyrene as used in a SIP panel and closed cell polyurethane as used in the Raycore panel. Not unlike a styrofoam cup melting in a campfire, the expanded polystyrene in a sandwich SIP panel melted to the core very rapidly, affecting the structural integrity of the panel. Because the Raycore polyurethane foam is Class 1 fire rated, it doesn't sustain a flame. It only charred the surface, leaving the surface below intact and unscathed. After the burn test demonstration, it's obvious where the superior insulation is. It's with the Raycore panel.
All right, so you can see a direct flame from the torch. It singes it, but it doesn't actually catch fire. So let me show you the layers of it. Basically, the layer of the assembly. This is the assembly that we put together. So let's look down here. This would be your existing sheathing. Okay, so if you have a tongue and groove roof system, then that stays intact. You put a radiant barrier on top. You put the Raycore panel, and then the Raycore panel has another kind of like a radiant barrier up here. You put your roof sheathing, your new stuff, and it gets attached to the embedded 2x4. See how that's kind of melded together? That comes as part of the panel. That gives the panel its form. And then you're waterproofing your Boral tile seal that goes there, and that becomes the basis for. Excuse me. That becomes the basis for the waterproofing, right? So this is the total assembly here, and again, depending on how much insulation you want, this becomes thicker. We think that this is probably the minimum that I would go, so that you get the most value for the investment, right? You're going to get the most performance for your money at that thickness. So that's our cross section. By the way, if you have any questions about this or the installation and how we did it, please post in your comments below. We actually have a really cool video of a time lapse of the guys installing it. So this is an overview. Once the tiles were removed, you could see that the paper, the waterproofing paper, was in really bad shape. There was a ton of debris. All of that is debris that worked its way in between the tiles. Most of you don't understand that those clay tiles, especially the old school ones, they sit either loose, or they'll have maybe one nail through them, or they'll have a nail like every third or fourth tile. So not a very, the old school way of installing was not really good. Definitely, it's a lot stronger now, I think. This is a picture of us shoring up we had shored up the house to replace the existing gravity beams with these PSLs. They're huge PSLs. And we put new posts and new pads so we could transfer the weight all the way down to the ground. Again, this is all done as part of the structural engineer's plans. So you can see here, this is the existing roof diaphragm, and you can see that the Raycore panels sit on top of that, and then they are screwed in to the purlins, to the roof rafters. So the idea is that the Raycore panels they're attached really well to the 2x4, and that 2x4 is screwed in to the purlins. Now we had to build this chase. This wasn't really we built this. The only reason that we built this was with the fireplace gone, we needed another way to get the HVAC vents from one side of the house to the other without installing a second unit on the other side. So we built this chase to create a void in the roof system to be able to get the vents from one side to the other, and we ended up running a little bit of infrastructure. I think we ended up running a gas line or something like that through there too. But it basically just created a void, a little mini attic to get the services from one end of the house to the other. Because the house is it's like a big rectangle. So the water heaters were on one side. We had to get all the services from one side to the other. You can see that the Raycore panels are not very heavy. Two people makes it easier to handle, but definitely one person could handle them, and they cut with the saw. You just run a hand saw through them, and they cut. It's pretty easy to work with. Once you install them, the next step is to tape the edges, so make sure you get a nice good seal from one panel to the next, and that'll help with the thermal performance. It'll help them from separating. Although actually that's really more for thermal performance. So they won't separate because they're drilled into the rafters. They're pretty well installed. And then after that, you put in your sheathing. In this case, we used OSB. And the cool part is that the OSB, you've got a nailer, right? The nailer that's on the panel is screwed into the purlin, and then the OSB is nailed onto the nailer. So you have really good contact between all of the layers of the assembly. It's another shot from a different angle. Steven, our top roofer guy. kind of wide shot with the drone. So you got everything on the left has been sheathed, and now the guys are going to move into the right. We installed a real nice new skylight in there, so that was kind of a cool feature. That space is just going to get natural light all the time now. And then this the guys installing the waterproofing. Just rolls on, and there's a little tab deal there, and then they put some fasteners on it. Pretty cool little setup. So most people are going to want to know, how much is this going to cost, right? What's the cost? How much does it add to the deal? So we factor in that for a 2,500 square foot house, you can expect to add to the cost of roofing between $35,000 and $45,000. Now this is pre-COVID prices. So we ordered these panels before COVID, and they were delivered kind of in the middle of the COVID crazy. But it is not cheap compared to fiberglass. But here's the thing: the fiberglass panels, the fiberglass rolls are a lot less expensive. It's true. However, if you factor in what it would cost you to disassemble the inside of the finished ceiling, whether it has drywall or exposed beams, and replace that with faux beams or all that stuff, I think that this would be cheaper than disassembling. And not to mention the amount of disruption that you would have if you're trying to do all of the work from the outside, that all of that interior disruption goes away. In this case, we remodeled the whole house, so that wasn't so much a problem. But if you have a flat roof, or if you have a mid-century modern house that has single slope, single pitch roofs, and you want to preserve the inside of the inside look of the roof of the ceiling, and be able to get some good performance from insulation, this is definitely the way to go. It's less expensive, it's faster, and you're going to get really good performance. So I highly recommend this. So if you have any questions, even after this video is posted, please post them in the comments. Brian's always looking to the comments and responding to people's questions. Brian, do we have any questions on the live feed?
Yeah, it looks like some of our viewers want to say hello. They're saying that we've been gone for a while now, so it's good to see us.
Right on. Thank you for watching. Sorry it's been so long. It's been kind of a crazy COVID year, and we've got a new lineup of videos, so please stay tuned. We're going to be posting them every week. Our goal is to post a video every week on different topics about fixing your house.
Okay, so one of our viewers wants to know, what's the best time of year to do this work?
Well, definitely in the spring, after the rains. The summers are good. That's kind of like the roofing season time. Although a lot of roofs get done in the winter when the roofs are leaking. So, look, I mean, ultimately, there's going to be a significant lead time. You're going to have probably about 4 or 5 week lead time to order the panels. To get this stuff approved through the yard jury, it's going to probably take about 3 to 4 months. So you want to definitely kind of plan ahead. If you've got leaks, or if your roof is in bad shape now, give our office a call and let's get started on it, because there's a big lead time for getting you approved with our jury and getting the materials ordered from Raycore.
Another viewer wants to know, it looks like they don't live in the peninsula, but they also have vaulted ceilings.
Right.
Can they use this type of product in their house?
Absolutely. Raycore is actually in Utah, and they make these systems for cold weather. So, for snow and for cabins that have a lot of weight, get a lot of weight. There's a lot of dead load because of the snow accumulation. So yeah, you can definitely use these. This is a really good product. I think the biggest application is for vaulted ceilings, for flat roofs, or for roofs that are like mid-century or modern houses that were built in the 70s that have single pitch roofs. This is one of the best ways to get good insulation up there, And if you need to re-roof anyway, that's the best time to do it.
Another viewer wants to know, can you install shingle on top of?
Yes, you totally can. You're going to put your OSB sheeting on top of the Raycore panel, and you can put whatever roof. You can even put a metal roof if you want to. You can put any roof on any roof surface that you want on there.
Hey, somebody with an eagle eye wants to know what type of underlayment did we use in that project?
A Burrell. Actually, we can go back to it. We'll go back to the assembly. Actually, you know what we could do? I have the assembly here. Let's go back to this picture here. There we go. Burrell tile seal waterproof underlayment. In fact, I've got an assembly here. So here's kind of the cross section. That's kind of the cross section. So on the bottom, right, is these vampire nails, but on the bottom is your existing roof framing. Then you've got a waterproof layer. You've got actually we put just basically clear plastic. Then we put the panels. Then you put your sheeting, and then you put the Burrell. And this is basically a self-adhesive layer that when you penetrate it with the nails for the tile, it'll self-seal around the nails. It gives you the waterproofing. Yeah. So this is this represents the existing roof diaphragm or the sheeting that's there now. So like, let's say you had a nice tongue and groove on the inside. You could see a tongue and groove ceiling. This is the outside of it, right? You can just leave it in place, and we put plastic, and then we'll put the panels, the SIP panels over it. Then we put another layer of OSB. This becomes your new sheeting, and then this is your true waterproofing. And then above this, you would put the clay tiles or the concrete tiles. And you can see the profile. See how the insulation is fused with the 2x4? That's right. When you run a screw through this 2x4 into the existing rafters, that's how the panel gets fixed as part of the roof system. This goes right into the roof rafter, and then this entire panel's in there. So that's why you could put asphalt shingles. You could put regular paper and put asphalt shingles, and you're done. No problem. You can nail into this, and then you can nail into this, and it's not an issue. So it's a really cool product. Definitely solves the problem. Over the years, I've had homeowners that want to do this up in PV and in LA. Over in Highland Park, there's a lot of houses that don't have very good insulation on the tops, and this is it. This is the solution. We ended up doing a lot of research for a project that was a mid-century modern house, and eventually after much research, the homeowner decided they didn't want to do it. They ended up just using a regular roof, and they put that poly, basically the styrofoam that you see styrofoam cups out of. They ended up using that. It was a real small thing, and somebody else did the work. We didn't end up doing the roof, but I had done a lot of research on this, and if it's really kind of fortuitous, a few months later, another client came with the same problem, and we knew exactly what to do. So that's what we did. Hopefully that answers your question. Mm-hmm.
Another viewer would like to know if you're going to need are there any special requirements for this? Meaning any special type of permits or anything you plan?
Well, so the question is, do you need special permits? You need to evaluate if the roof framing, the existing roof framing can deal with the weight. Raycore will give you all of the per square footage weights for the different dimension foam. And then the engineer can make the determination if something needs to be done to the roof. We knew that big room where the existing gravity beams were, those beams needed to be replaced because they were bowed. So the rest of the house that has normal interior walls and has an attic space, that section was fine. It was just basically the area over the living room next to the kitchen and the dining room where we removed the fireplace, where we removed the fireplace and the chimney and stuff. So those that section there needed to. So we ended up re-engineering the roof, and then the engineers did the calculations for how big the beams had to be, and that's it. So you have to, without a doubt, confirm that the existing framing can handle the weight. That has to be done by a structural engineer, not by a contractor. I think if you come across an experienced contractor, they could tell you if it's marginal, but you have to get that confirmed by a structural engineer. I mean, I think that's the safest way to do it.
Another viewer would like to know if you can do this in certain sections of the roof, or you have to do it all.
No, you have to do it all, because otherwise you'll have a step down. It'll look weird. You'll have sections of your roof that are thicker than others. So you have to do all of it. And the truth is that in most cases, it calls for all of it. Like, we could have done a different kind of insulation in the garage in this job. So if you go back into this picture, you can see the garage in the background with the roof was still on. But we ended up changing the garage out because they use it as a gym. So they didn't want to feel that radiating heat in the garage either. Yeah, so we ended up doing it there. Even though we could have insulated it another way, we just did it all the same. And that way it was predictable performance.
Another viewer would like to know, can the SIP panels be installed in the interior?
Yes, but that defeats the purpose of the panels. The SIP panels are structural panels. So they have the idea is that you can actually screw them in to the rafters, right? So if you're not doing that, if you're just slipping them in between, you're not getting the benefit of them. You know, if you can slip insulation in between the existing rafters, then you might as well go with traditional rolled insulation. Yeah, that's what I think.
Another viewer would like to know what type of roofs are best suited for this type of product.
Yes, that's a good question. So, a flat roof, a single pitch like a modern house would have, or basically any roof that doesn't have a attic, so that you can insulate from the inside. So vaulted ceilings. That's why they're the most common that require this, because there's no insulation in the vaulted ceilings. And most people don't feel, a lot of times people don't feel the heat in the vaulted ceilings because it's so high, but the room gets really hot by the middle of the day. And the reason is it takes all day, it's getting a beating from the sun all day, and it produces radiant heat into the room. When you have the SIP panels insulating that, you never get the radiant heat. It just stops at the panel. So those are the types of site conditions that you would use this for. Look, in traditional construction, I would just insulate the attic and call it done. That's not what this is for. This is for vaulted ceilings or ceilings with exposed beams that you don't want to mess the inside, and you want to leave the profile of the ceiling intact. So this allows you to do all of the insulation from the outside and not make the roof system weaker. It actually makes it stronger. So, if that's all those are all the questions, please, if you have any other questions about other construction stuff, this channel is dedicated for that. You can also go to our website, baycitiesconstruction.com. We've got tons of blog articles there. If you want to learn more about what we do, we also post videos on our projects, project updates, and that's kind of a cool place to go. Check it out. We have our blog articles. Got hundreds of articles there about about construction. And the reason that we do this is so that you can be educated, you can have an understanding of what it's going to take to do these projects, and also that to prove to you that we know what we're doing when it comes to remodeling single-family homes or wood frame buildings. So this is my contractor info. Been in business since 2005, 2004. I think we got our contractor's license. That's our contractor's license. It's a B license. We also offer you, if you're going to remodel your entire house, we offer you interior design work. We have architectural engineering services as part of our team, and we'll represent you with the city. We'll manage your project and build your project out. That's what we do for you. If you want to set up an in-home consultation, we can do that either in your house or we can do it virtual. And we use Zoom for that. It's pretty cool. It's a good way to save some time. So Brian at our offices you reach our offices by email or give us a call, and we'll set up a Zoom call. Send Brian some pictures of your space, and we'll get started with the conversation of what it's going to take to build out your place, remodel your house. And you can also check out our reviews on Yelp and Houzz and Google and Facebook and all that good stuff. I want to thank you again for watching another episode of the Bay Cities Construction Show. My name's Alex Rodriguez, reminding you, you don't need a contractor. You need a team of pros.
The kitchen you want today from Bay Cities Construction in the Southern California and Los Angeles area. There is no better company who takes time out of the equation to get you a detailed plan of what your new kitchen will look like. Get your design plans done, your interior design plans done, and entire project scope done right now. Get your finished kitchen in 90 days or less. We are the best in the Los Angeles and Southern California area, and there's no need to shop anywhere else. Just get started with Bay Cities Construction. Go to baycitiesconstruction.com. That's baycitiesconstruction.com.
Hey folks, thanks for watching our episode. Please don't forget to comment and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really helps with the algorithm. It helps Google and Facebook. Tells them that the content that you're watching is valuable, and it's valuable to you, and it's a good resource for the community. So please post your comments below, ask your questions below, and if you got a little attaboy for us, please do so. And remember, it's Cancer Awareness Month, so if you have a loved one that is struggling with going to the doctor and getting checked out, please make sure that you support them and give them a little bit of good peer pressure to go see the doctor and get checked out. My name is Alex with Bay Cities Construction. Reminding you, you don't need a contractor. You need a team of pros. Bay Cities Construction. My name's Alex Rodriguez, reminding you, you don't need a contractor. You need a team of pros.